Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Millennium TV News. This is Rofik Pramanik with top stories. Trump fires back on bombshell NYT report on campaigns ties to Russia. US arrest documented Mexican immigrant. Not interfere in domestic matters of other countries, says Sergey Lavrov. And women arrested over the murder of Kim Jong-nam. Those are the headlines, now the detail. US President Donald Trump assailed US intelligence agencies on Wednesday for what he said were illegal information leaks and dismissed reports of contacts between members of his presidential campaign and Russian intelligence officials. President Donald Trump striking back against reports that his campaign aides spoke extensively with Russian spies. During last year's election, revelations that raised new alarms about Moscow's alleged meddling in the U.S. presidential race. The New York Times late Tuesday night citing 4 current and former U.S. officials that members of Trump's campaign and other associates had repeated contacts with senior Russian intelligence officials in the year before the election. At a news conference with visiting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Trump slamming what he called illegal leaks from the U.S. intelligence community. United States authorities have arrested an immigrant from Mexico who was issued a work permit during the Obama administration in what could be the first detention of its kind under President Donald Trump.
Are dreamers in trouble under a Trump administration? Reuters exclusively reporting that a 23-year-old Mexican immigrant with no criminal record and a permit to live and work in the U.S. was taken into custody last week at his father's home in Seattle by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers, or ICE. Daniel Ramirez Medina was a DACA recipient, or dreamer, one of some 750,000 people brought to the U.S. illegally as children, but granted temporary permission to live and work here legally after President Barack Obama established the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals policy in 2012. Ramirez came to the U.S. from Mexico when he was 7 and now has a 3-year-old son. Reuters legal reporter Dan Levine broke the story.
This is significant because this appears to be the first person arrested under the Trump administration of someone who has a work permit to be here under a program that President Obama started. President Trump so far has been fairly vague about how the administration is going to treat this. And this man was arrested in Seattle last Friday, and he's still being held. And so what's unclear at this point is whether this was just a mistake by ICE agents in Seattle and they're going to let him go eventually, or whether this is part of a new broadening of immigration enforcement by the Trump administration.
Ramirez filed a challenge to his detention in Seattle federal court on Monday. A spokeswoman for the U.S. Attorney's Office in Seattle says the Justice Department is still reviewing the case. Last week, U.S. immigration officers arrested over 680 undocumented immigrants. Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly called it a routine operation, but immigrant advocacy groups and Democrats are concerned immigration enforcement efforts will escalate under the Trump administration, in line with the president's tough talk towards illegal immigrants.
Kim Jong-nam, half-brother of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, has been killed in Malaysia, according to South Korean government sources. Kim Jong-nam, half-brother of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, killed at Kuala Lumpur airport in Malaysia, according to South Korean government sources. TV video reporting that he was poisoned by 2 women thought to be North Korean spies. Malaysian police telling Reuters that an unidentified North Korean man died en route to hospital. Kim Jong-nam largely lived abroad. He came to global attention in 2001 when he was arrested trying to enter Japan on a fake passport. At the time, he said he was trying to go to Tokyo Disneyland. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says Moscow does not interfere in domestic matters of other countries. When asked about Russia's alleged ties to US President Donald Trump, Russia does not interfere in the internal matters of other countries, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Thursday at the start of a meeting with United States. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, when asked about recent turmoil in Washington, "You should know we do not interfere in the domestic matters of other countries." Lavrov said he spoke day after US President Donald Trump asked for the resignation of his key national security advisor Michael Flynn amid questions about his conversation with Russian officials. He said the two countries had plenty of issues to discuss and said he hoped to establish the parameters of our future work. Malaysian police on Wednesday detained a woman in connection with the assassination of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's estranged half-brother, police said. Jo Min Park is following the investigation.
It could be the first breakthrough in the investigation into the sudden death of Kim Jong-nam. Malaysian police said they detained a female suspect, reportedly the woman shown in this CCTV footage. She was carrying a Vietnamese passport. The arrest happened on Wednesday morning, in front of the same terminal where Kim Jong-nam became fatally ill on Monday. In Seoul, Kim's death prompted a meeting of South Korea's National Security Council, headed by the acting president.
If we can confirm that Kim Jong-nam's murder was committed by the North Korean government, it would be a case of showing how cruel and inhumane the Kim Jong-un regime is.
In a briefing at the National Assembly, the head of South Korea's spy agency told politicians it believed Kim was poisoned by two female assailants. The briefing provided an avalanche of detail, albeit without any corroborating evidence supplied. The National Intelligence Service reportedly saying that Kim Jong-nam was under Chinese protection, that his family remained so, and that he'd been under constant threat since an earlier assassination attempt in 2012. Also in 2012, a Japanese journalist published a book based, he said, on extensive email and other interviews with Kim Jong-nam. In them, he described estrangement from his father, the late leader Kim Jong-il, and expressed doubts about his younger brother's ability to stay in power. Park Kwang-il is a high-profile North Korean defector in Seoul. He's convinced North Korea was responsible.
We've just witnessed an incident which shows how merciless the North Korean regime can be in punishing those who may pose a threat. Now I have to take extra precautions for my own safety.
In Pyongyang, celebrations are underway for what would have been on Thursday the 75th birthday of Kim Jong-il. The body of his firstborn son had meanwhile been taken to a Malaysian forensics facility. Outside,
Venezuela's socialist leader Nicolas Maduro says he wants to avoid confrontation with new US President Donald Trump. Maduro also polls CNN Spanish of the Year on accusation of distorting the truth. Venezuela's socialist leader Nicolas Maduro said on Wednesday that he wanted to avoid confrontation with new US President Donald Trump. "I don't want problems with Mr. Donald Trump. President Donald Trump should know that the revolutionary Bolivarian state of Venezuela, the children of Bolivar, and I, as President of the Republic, I don't want problems with your administration," Maduro said in a speech after Trump held various conversations with other Latin American leaders expressing concern over Venezuela. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau praises the European Union as an unprecedented model for peaceful cooperation in a speech to EU lawmakers that contrasted sharply with the critical stance of US President Donald Trump. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau praised the European Union on Thursday as an unprecedented model for peaceful cooperation in a speech to EU lawmakers that contrasted sharply with the critical stance of US President Donald Trump. Speaking to the European Parliament a day after it backed a comprehensive free trade deal between Canada and the EU known as CETA, Trudeau said the 28-nation bloc had a crucial global role to play. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina left here for Germany on Thursday night on a 4-day official visit to attend the Munich Security Conference and hold bilateral talks with the German Chancellor Angela Merkel. A flight of Etihad Airways carrying the Prime Minister and entourage left Hazrat Shahjalal International Airport at 10 p.m. and it will reach Munich International Airport on Friday morning via Abu Dhabi. Foreign Minister A.H. Mahmoud Ali is accompanying the Prime Minister. Cabinet members including Industries Minister Amir Hussain Amu, Commerce Minister Tufail Ahmed, Civil Aviation and Tourism Minister Rashid Khan Menon, Prime Minister's Political Affairs Advisor H.T. Iman, Dean of the Diplomatic Corporation, the Chief of the three services and other high civil and military officials saw the Prime Ministers of the airport. The new Election Commission started its 5-year journey on Wednesday with its chief promising to win the trust of all political parties, including Bangladesh Nationalist Party (BNP), and urging the government not to influence. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina also hoped the new EC will be able to earn people's confidence through performing its duties neutrally and independently, being loyal to the country's sacred constitution. BNP, however, said they will closely observe the Commission's activities and its future role in conducting local body polls will depend on the party's participation in the 11th parliament polls under it. A Malaysian ship carrying aid for thousands of Rohingya Muslims who have fled to bloody army crackdown in Myanmar docked in Bangladesh Tuesday, days after it met with protest in Yangon. Senior Bangladeshi officials and Malaysian diplomats gathered at Chittagong port as nautical earlier docked in the southern city, from where its aid cargo will be transported to Rohingya camps. The shipment was received by local officials of the Red Crescent and the International Organization of Migration at the port's container terminal in a brief handover ceremony. Trucks will carry the 1,472 tons of food, clothing and medical items to Cox's Bazar, some 200 kilometers south of Chittagong, for distribution to tens of thousands of Rohingya refugees. Viewers, we'll take a short break. Stay with us. We are back in a moment. Oregon State University launches a robot business aimed at bringing linked locomotion to wide-scale use. Meet Casey, the latest step forward in bipedal walking robots. Developed at Oregon State University, the ostrich-like system can handle complex and uneven terrain. It can steer away from obstacles and even keep it balanced when pushed. The maker says it's a more energy-efficient system that can go anywhere that a human can go. This could be partially useful in search and rescue. Jonathan Hurst, Oregon State University Associate Professor of Robotics, saying, "Imagine you have got a fire in a building and the fire chief isn't really sure if somebody is still in the building, and they have to make a difficult decision about whether they are going to send one of their firefighters in because it's dangerous." A Dutch artist and inventor develops a solar-powered water maker with no moving parts and says he expects it to run for decades. The solar-powered water maker keeps going and going and going. A Verhagen's device uses Peltier element, which transfers heat from one side of the device to the other when a current is passed through it, creating a cold side. The cooling surface is cooled by Peltier element, which is directly connected to the solar panel. So we don't have a battery, we don't have an inverter, we don't have a fan, so no running parts. So I expect that it will run for decades. The system cost around 50 euros to build. Inventor AP Verhagen say all the energy that's produced in used to cool a surface. Scientists say a crop ravaging caterpillar called the fall armyworm is eating its way across Africa, and as Stuart McDill reports, could reach tropical Asia and the Mediterranean in the next few years. The tiny caterpillar fueling big concern. This fall armyworm was found in Ghana, eating its way through a field of maize, where it's being prepared for DNA testing at the Center for Agriculture and Bioscience International outside London to prove it has jumped to the Atlantic from the Americas to West Africa. Crop protection specialist Dr. Jenny Vos says the outbreak is deeply worrying. Now the news on business. Kate Spade is bowing to pressure from US hedge fund Kairos investors, sending the company's shares skyrocketing on Thursday. Handbag maker Kate Spade says it's exploring strategic alternatives, meaning the company is trying to sell itself. The news sent the stock skyrocketing on the Thursday, valuing the company at about $2.8 billion. Kate Spade has been under pressure from its investor, New York-based hedge fund Kairos. The fund sent a letter to Kate Spade's board in November saying it was increasingly frustrated by the inability of the company's management to achieve profit margins comparable with its peers. South Africa's antitrust investigators are calling for more than a dozen banks to be fined for colluding and manipulating trades in the rand. As Ivor Bennett reports, it could become the latest in a string of penalties handed to leaders around the world for raising currencies. 100 rand would get you just over $7.5 by today's rates in the past. Though the rates haven't always been what they seemed. South Africa's Competition Commission has accused over a dozen banks of rand-dollar rate raising. It says traders colluded via instant messaging chat rooms since 2007 at least. Now the news on entertainment. Emails showing Dr. Liu criticizing cases what are introduced in the court battle between the music producer and musical artist Keisha. Singer Keisha has released a series of emails in which her producer Dr. Liu says that musicians were unwilling to give her their songs to perform because of her weight. The emails were part of a set of court documents filed this week amid the singer's case to get out of her recording contract. 29-year-old Keisha has been involved in a 3-year battle to be released from a deal with Sony Music and pop hitmaker Dr. Liu. She has accused Dr. Liu's real name Lucas Goodwald of rape and emotional abuse during the early stages of her career. Spanish director Alex de la Iglesia presents El Burr, which he describes as a comedy of terror at the Berlinale genre-mixing film. The Burr has launched at the Berlin Film Festival. It plays on recent terrorist attacks in Europe and follows a group of relative strangers who get imprisoned in a bar when this happens. Alex de la Iglesia saying, "It seems very serious, it seems quite awful, but in my cinema it isn't. It is a comedy in my film, but it's a terrible comedy. It's a comedy of terror, I could call it. It's a kind of a genre of my own, but it's a genre which I like." Now the news on sports. Brain damage found in former footballers is fueling concerns that frequent knocks from hitting the ball or colliding with other players could cause dementia. Damage in the brain of a former professional footballer. The question is, was it caused by hitting the ball? Researchers in London and Cardiff say post-mortems on 6 former players found evidence of chronic traumatic encephalopathy or CTE, a potential cause of dementia. Professor John Hardy of University College London, "Your brain is like black maize in consistency, but your blood vessels are just a little bit." Bangladesh all-rounder Saqib Al Hasan has attained career-high 20th place in the Test rankings for the first time in his career following the conclusion of the one-off test between India and Bangladesh in Hyderabad on Monday. Saqib has scored 82 and 22 to move up to 20th rank after jumping 2 places after there was no change in the top 5 in all the 3 categories of the MRF Tiers ICC Test Player Rankings. Bangladesh cricket team's keeper Mushfiqur Rahim also scored centuries in Hyderabad, which is reflected in the latest MRF Tiers ICC Test Player Rankings. Mushfiqur has achieved a career-high 35th position after valuing 5 places. Pakistani cricket officials have vowed to stage the final of their 2020 league in Lahore next month, despite powerful Taliban suicide bomb blast which killed 13 people there this week. The first 2 rounds of Pakistan Super League are being played in Dubai and Sharjah, but organizers had planned the March 5 final in the eastern Pakistani city, vowing head of state security for international players. Viewers, let's have a look Millennium TV News recap. Trump fires back on bombshell NYT report on campaigns ties to Russia. US arrest documented Mexican immigrant. Not interfere in domestic matters of other countries, says Sergey Lavrov. And women arrested over the murder of Kim Jong-nam. Viewers, to get any kinds of news, log in our social media, facebook.com/MillenniumTVUSA and youtube.com/MillenniumTVUSA. You are up to date here with our top stories so far here on Millennium TV, and don't forget to log in our website www.millenniumtv.org, www.millenniumtv.net. Thank you and stay with Millennium TV. Allah Hafiz.